ready for liftoff. This deep dive has taken us way out there to Jupiter's moon, Europa, and NASA's incredible Europa Clipper mission. We've been digging into the latest on this, and let me tell you, this is big.
You know, it's always gotten to me how Europa Clipper really shows that you have human need to find out. Like, are we it? Is there other life out there? Maybe even right here in our own solar system.
And when we're talking about life, Europa's been on everyone's mind for a while, right? But this isn't just some, oh, maybe there's water situation. This is a whole hidden ocean under the ice.
You got it. And we're not talking some little pond here. Scientists are thinking this ocean could be huger than all of Earth's oceans put together. Maybe even saltier, too. It's almost hard to imagine.
Okay, hold up a sec. Are you saying there's another ocean under this moon's ice?
Hmm.
And we just found out about it.
It's been like this cosmic puzzle putting clues together. Data from those older missions, like NASA's Galileo, gave us hints, Like those dark streaks all over Europa and those crazy cracked parts. Those tell us there's stuff happening down there, maybe even stuff coming up from the ocean.
So it's like Europa's saying, hey, something awesome's down here. But even if there's an ocean, how do we know it could have life?
That's where it gets really interesting. Besides all that water, scientists think Europa's got the other stuff life needs. We're talking organic molecules, the stuff that makes up life, plus a steady energy source. It's like someone hid a recipe for life under all that ice.
All right, now this is cool. Unlike those quick flybys, Europa Clipper's going to be there for a while, right? I read it's going to do almost 50 close passes, getting super close to the surface.
Yeah, this isn't just a quick look-see. We're talking about getting up close and personal, like 16 miles above the surface. To give you an idea, that's like flying a fridge over a football field. And during these flybys, Europa Clipper is going to be busy.
Oh, I bet. So what's this spacecraft actually going to do out there? What kind of tech we talking?
Picture this. Europa Clipper's got 9 top-of-the-line science instruments. I'm talking super high-res cameras to get us incredible pics of the surface, ice-penetrating radar to see what's under that ice, and spectrometers to tell us what the surface is made of, and maybe even what's in those plumes shooting out from the ocean.
Whoa, ice-penetrating radar. That's straight out of Star Trek. But that tech's got to get there first.
Right.
One article said it's a 6-year trip to Jupiter. That's a long commute.
Space travel. Definitely not for the impatient. But think about it. A decade of work by the geniuses at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab went into this thing, designing it, building it, testing it. They thought of everything. Well, almost everything.
Wait a minute, almost?
Yeah.
Now I am nervous. What are you talking about?
Remember those transistors, the ones that might be faulty? Those almost shut the whole thing down.
Oh, right. Yeah, they thought Jupiter's radiation might fry those things, right?
Right.
Those tiny little things almost stopped the mission.
It was a huge worry, especially because the spacecraft needs those transistors to work. They were showing signs of failing under the radiation tests. Can you imagine the pressure?
I can only imagine.
Hmm.
The launch, the years of travel, all that work. All because of these tiny parts. So what did they do? Did they have to postpone?
Delaying the launch, that was definitely on the table. But get this. The engineers came up with something both brilliant and simple. The canary box.
Okay, canary box. Now you got to explain that one. That sounds more like something from back in the day. Like coal mines, not spaceships.
You're right. It's actually the same idea. You know how miners used to take canaries down with them to warn about bad air?
Yeah, like an early warning system?
Exactly. The canaries would react to those gases before the miners, right? So it was a signal to get out of there.
So they built this little, like, radiation-proof box with extra transistors inside. That's kind of brilliant.
That's it. It's like an experiment happening out in deep space. Each transistor in there is like the ones used on the spacecraft, and as Europa Clipper gets hit with all that radiation, those canary transistors will start showing problems first, giving scientists back home a heads up.
So they'll know which instruments are in trouble and when to, like, turn them off to protect them. That could save the whole mission. Talk about outside-the-box thinking, or I guess inside the box in this case. But with all this radiation, I got to ask, are we actually going to see Europa's surface? Or is it going to be all messed up and blurry from the radiation?
Great question. And NASA's way ahead of you. That radiation vault, it's not just for electronics, it's protecting the cameras too. And get this, the camera lenses themselves. They're made with that radiation-resistant glass, the kind they use in nuclear plants.
Wow, they really did think of everything. So we're talking crystal clear, high-def images of Europa. Maybe even those cracks and plumes you were talking about.
Oh yeah, National Geographic quality for sure. But it's more than just pretty pictures, right? These images, they're going to help scientists map the surface, figure out how the ice is structured, even find potential spots to land on future missions.
Future missions. Okay, now you're talking.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, there was something else I read kind of out of left field. Something about Europa's icy surface. And get this, the ice sheet in Greenland. How are those two even related?
That's science for you. Always finding connections in unexpected places. Researchers were looking at data from NASA's Operation Icebridge. They used planes to map the ice at the poles, and they found something wild. A feature in Greenland's ice sheet that looks almost identical to those double ridges on Europa.
Double ridges. You mean those, like, giant icy speed bumps they've seen on Europa?
Those are the ones. Scientists think those ridges on Europa, they happen when the moon's icy shell cracks open. It's from the pull of Jupiter's gravity, you know? So water from the ocean underneath, it comes up and freezes, makes those ridges. And now they're seeing the same kind of thing in Greenland.
So Greenland's like a tiny model of Europa right here on Earth.
You got it. It's a chance to really study those processes up close, see if our theories hold up, and figure out how Europa's ice shell works, how it interacts with the ocean underneath, maybe even how those plumes happen.
This is why I love these deep dives. Always something that blows your mind, some crazy connection or discovery. But with all this talk about Europa and life, when will we actually know if there's anything swimming around in that ocean? Is Europa Clipper going to find us some alien fish down there?
I hate to disappoint, but Europa Clipper, it's not equipped to find life directly. Think of it more like a scout, setting things up for the missions to come. Its job is to tell us for sure how big is that ocean, what's it made of, and map that icy shell. Maybe even find some good landing spots for future missions that can search for life.
Okay, no alien squid pics for now. But those future missions, they could search for what you call biosignatures, right?
Yeah.
Those signs that life is or was on Europa.
You got it.
So instead of digging for bones, we're looking for molecules.
Exactly. But finding them means landing on Europa, drilling through miles of ice, and getting samples from the ocean itself. Not easy.
Definitely not on the to-do list for today. But can you imagine a future mission with a submarine exploring Europa's ocean, searching for life? That's next-level exploration. But speaking of the future, what happens to Europa Clipper when it's done? Does it just stay in orbit around Jupiter forever?
You know, for such a high-tech mission, Europa Clipper has a pretty poetic ending. Once it's done collecting data, they're going to deorbit it.
Deorbit it? Wait, they're going to crash it.
In a controlled way, of course. They'll use whatever fuel is left to steer it towards Ganymede.
Hold on, GIC is headed to Ganymede too, right?
Yeah.
That European spacecraft that launched last year. What are the chances?
And it gets even more interesting.
Okay, interesting how... You got to tell me more. Why crash Europa Clipper into Ganymede? What's the point?
It's all about the timing. Remember, GIC isn't supposed to get to Jupiter until 2031. So if they crash Europa Clipper into Ganymede around the same time that GCA gets there, scientists could get a chance to see something they've never seen before.
Let me guess, a space probe crash landing. GIC gets a front row seat to watch.
Well, not exactly front row seats. GECs might not be close enough to actually see the impact, but it could study what happens afterward, like analyze the stuff that gets kicked up by the crash.
So Europa Clipper makes a grand exit, and GCC gets to study the leftovers. What would that even tell us about Ganymede?
Tons of potential data. We could learn about what Ganymede's surface is made of, maybe even get some hints about its own underground ocean. It's like a 2-for-1 deal, but in space.
Talk about going out with a bang. This mission is amazing. There's so much to it. Groundbreaking science, mind-blowing engineering, connections to stuff here on Earth, even a little bit of poetry in the mix.
Poetry, what do you mean?
In one of these articles, it talked about a message in a bottle that's going along for the ride.
Oh yeah, the message in a bottle. It is kind of beautiful when you think about it. It's this microchip on Europa Clipper, and it has poems on it by Ada Limon, the U.S. Poet Laureate.
Poems on a spacecraft. That's so cool. What are the poems about? Space? Aliens?
Not sure about that, but the chip also has the names of millions of people on it from all over the world. People could send their names to NASA to be included. Shows you how much this mission has gotten people's attention.
Wow. A time capsule and a message in a bottle. Heading out to a whole other world with an ocean under the ice. Talk about inspiring. So even if Europa Clipper won't be sending back pictures of aliens, it's taking a little bit of humanity along with it.
Exactly. It reminds us that exploration isn't just about facts and figures. It's about curiosity, about wonder, about pushing the limits of what we know, and what we dare to dream is possible.
It's wild how looking into a few articles can take you on such an amazing journey. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what's out there to learn about Europa. And about the search for life beyond Earth.
Absolutely. And that's what's so great about it, right? There's always more to find and more to understand. And with missions like Europa Clipper leading the way, who knows what incredible things the universe might show us.
That wraps up our deep dive into the Europa Clipper mission. If you're as blown away by all this as we are, go check out NASA's website. You can submit your name for their next message in a bottle. And hey, maybe one day a little piece of you will be part of an awesome space mission too.